How are you, sir?
Well, I'm doing good. Thank you very much.
That's great. It's such an honor to have you here on our show, on this channel. So tell me something about yourself, about your work experience, about your job, and might be about your education and all.
Well, I'm a teacher, basically, and I was very fortunate to go to one of the premier public schools of Pakistan, where my father was working. And then I also had the diversity of going to very primitive places as well, as they call in various places in Pakistan. So that was like Bahawalpur, Sibbi, Islamabad, Lahore. I had an experience of living in different places towards a master's degree in English literature. So the early years were at a place called Sadiq Public School. Sadiq Public School is, if you do a Wikipedia, that is perhaps the largest school in Asia, if not the world, as far as its area is concerned. And then of course the ambience is there as well. If you look at the HSN College in Lahore, of course you multiply that by 4, so that's the area. But of course HSN College itself is really big because it's on the main Mall Road in Lahore.
True.
So I mean, my father used to tell me, and then I learned later on as well, that Napoleon and all those things where the wars took place, they said that actually those wars were won or lost on the battlefields of Harrow and Eton. So the battlefields were actually, the wars were inspired because they had been trained on the playing fields of Eton and Harrow. So Eton and Harrow are one of the 9 or 10 public schools of England.
All right.
So definitely that does bring about a kind of an aura, kind of an ambience, and does inspire the personality. So I was very fortunate, to be very honest, in the first place to have studied in that place. But all the diversity that came to my character is because I also got the opportunity to go and live in very primitive places. The places which did not really have a lot of social gatherings, social circles and all that. But I sort of made all that synergize in a way where it all sort of helped developing my personality. And to be very honest, I feel a little, it does not really make me to talk about myself. I can say that why I'm saying all that is that is something which our young people and all our people around the country and the communication and what we're talking about, that's the way in which they can build towards it.
Yeah.
They have to be open. I'll stop by a very small anecdote. I mean, one of our relatives, far off relative said, "Oh, yeah, I'll come to Lahore. When I'll go to Rahim Yar Khan," so from Multan he was saying, "So I will come, while going to Rahim Yar Khan, I'll come to Lahore." So the point is, we should have what you call in Urdu, zaman o makan. We should really know what is around us, where we are, and then of course communication plays a very important role.
Yeah, it's true. All right. So moving forward, just as you said, if you want to get more, if you want to build your character a bit stronger, you need to have the vision. That's what you got. What do you think about education system? Is it doing, or is it playing its role the way it should be, or some changes are required, some transformation or anything?
Well, I mean, thank you very much for posing this question. This is very pertinent as well these days. There is a lot of debate going on. There are a lot of things like single curriculum and other things. They are, of course, the things which should be done, but I'll talk about something above that. I'll talk about something else. Whatever the curriculum, whatever it is, basically you spoke about something very, very important. That is the level of communication, how the communication takes place between the learners and the teachers, or the learners and the facilitators, students and the teachers, professors. I think it's a two-way thing. What it has to be is that I always say that there is nothing which the teacher would know. It's only that he's facilitating. I mean, he would know a lot, but there is not everything what he would know. He would know quite a lot. The day the teacher learns to say, "Oh really, you asked me this question? Very good." You sort of up the ante. Take it one step up. So, okay, no problem. Let me do some research on that. I've also heard about it. Let me come back to you tomorrow on that. You do this thing and I'll do this thing. The day when this thing happens in our schools, maybe they are primary schools, maybe they are high schools, maybe they are the elitist institutions, as they say, or maybe it is the universities. About 200 odd universities, 120 in the public sector and the rest in the private sector. The day this thing happens, then I believe the communication will improve manifold. So that's one thing.
True. Okay, so when it comes to communication, so people also believe that this is the intuition that we have inside. Like even a baby, a newborn baby, he knows how to communicate, how to deliver a message to the parent. What do you think? Is it really a skill that a person can brush up by learning, improving, or might be with the help of the instructor? Or there is no need to put your effort on it?
Oh, no, certainly there is. As they say, if you are just stuck up in your home, there's nothing that happens. I
Yeah.
tell you, I was doing some marketing, and apart from my things as I was a teacher, I did a marketing job as well. That was
Okay.
education as well. I was marketing the O and A levels around Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nepal.
All right.
I can tell you, the kind of sort of experience you get when you've got your bag and you're sort of in Karachi, in North Nazimabad, or under that McDonald's flyover, and then you see the din of the noise of the city, and then things are different. The other thing is, if you watch a cricket match, I remember Pakistan was deprived of a lot of test cricket,
yeah.
but I remember our worthy Prime Minister once, I saw a match in Karachi, Malcolm Marshall was coming in to bowl, and then the live match and Imran Khan Sahab walking in, and then of course the bouncer coming in and he just whizzing past. So we came to know, okay, so that's where the boundary is, that's where the wicket keeper is standing. So the sort of the magnanimity of the thing comes to that. Similarly, the real essence of something is actually go and play the match. You go to the institution, interact with the instructors, the people around you, jostle your way around.
Yeah.
Jostle your way around. That's where I repeated that. Only then one sort of comes up.
Yeah.
If it's like watching a cricket match. On the small TV screen, maybe the 50 inches, 70 inches, does not matter at all. One cannot really have the idea what is the speed of the ball. Yes, once you do that, once you take up a sort of a course, then you will always brush it up. But you need to have the skills. Then you can have a lot of things on the internet, then you can do all that. So my answer is a big yes.
Yeah.
One has to get into the
Alright. So it means even having so many videos on YouTube, still you need to jump into the ocean so that you absorb it. Alright. Moving forward, how would you see the importance of English in Pakistan?
Well, English, I am sort of, this is something which I really wonder that has to be tapped into very fast. There was something that was on my mind as well, but I recently heard it on Russian television, RT TV as well, on one of their programs, and even otherwise, I was much convinced about it. But Pakistan is now the 5th largest country in the world. It has overtaken the 6th country. So we are 5th largest as far as population goes.
That's great.
But the good thing is that our population is sort of, as they say, there's a term tech savvy, but our population is moldable. It is still in the impressionable sort of a thing.
Yeah.
The young youth bulge, as they say.
Yeah.
And even the ones who are in a later stage as well, sort of the 40s and all that. English is something which comes quite naturally to us. I have I've traveled around the world, I can see people in the Far East, even in the Indian subcontinent as well. Perhaps Pakistan is the place where it just comes naturally. It's only got to have something called a total immersion sort of thing, whereby just jump into it and suddenly they would learn. And no one can underestimate the importance of English language. Everything that is going to happen now, the artificial intelligence and other things, it's all going to happen in English.
Yeah, true.
And I have read about things. I've read a very good article which is about quite in detail where does the United States stand and where does China stand as far as this Internet of Things and all these new things are there. And they say that one of the advantages is the Chinese have to get back to learn English. That's one thing which is they call a handy they are sort of one step ahead. They have a bonus in that.
Yeah.
So yes, English is very important. No two views about it. But having said that, all the regional languages, all languages are good. Pakistan is very, very fortunate to have a binding spirit like the Urdu language. Everybody speaks Urdu. So we'll have two such things as well.
Yeah.
We have English, we have Urdu.
And there is a saying, two language means you have two souls.
My goodness me, very well said.
Yeah.
Very well said.
Okay, so how do you see the importance of English in a workplace?
English in a workplace, again, as they say, 7 billion is the population, as they say. The world is like 7 billion, maybe a little more. I would reckon that, well, about more than half of it, English is already there in the workplace, and the rest of it is yearning towards that. In their hearts of heart, if you ask them,
Mm.
even now the French, if we ask the French as well, we heard a lot about them that they would say, oh no, 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 we have heard stories. The French people would say, we don't want to speak English and all that. No, now the things are changing. Actually, Chinese speak English, the French speak English. And in the workplace, I would say that they have been, I'm sort of we can toggle in between. I mean, in our country, there's been a lot of debate about it. That why still there is this English language in the courts? Why is there this English language in the offices?
Yeah.
I would say that yes, to some extent, English should not be there in the way that it is something which gives a certain privilege to a person or a certain status to a person. It is there because it is the language of the world. And rather than shying away from it, just jump into that.
Yeah.
Do not worry about the pronunciations and other things. They come naturally. Or accents. They just come naturally. I can tell you, I mean, the British accent, which is the London accent, the real. I mean, even in the United Kingdom, people would say, "Oh, you've got different accents." In the United States, somebody walks into the New England states. I mean, they've got a different accent.
Yeah.
So yes, I believe coming back to it, sort of, I went a little bit far ahead. But yes, there is a lot of importance. There is a lot of value about sticking to the language. We've come a distance. There shouldn't be any effort about curbing it. Along with that, the other languages are there. They should be there as well. All the languages are there. They should flourish.
And just as you were talking about accent, that even in Britain you will find so many different accents. Same as in Pakistan, if you go there, even every different area has different accent. For instance, people who speak Urdu, let's suppose in Lahore, is different than people who speak Urdu in Karachi and same in Islamabad. So it's different. So accent is not something which everybody should be focusing on, but the importance of English language. So moving on, what do you think? I mean, there is one saying that Urdu is the national language, then why should we learn English? So I believe so. People are also a bit reluctant that if they go to learn English language, they are going to face a lot of difficulties, problems. What is the exact way? What is the easiest way to learn it?
Farhan, I would rather, if you would allow me to go a little bit deeper into that. What has happened is that English has become a sort of a status builder sort of a thing.
Yeah.
Whereas it is a communication tool. So if it is a communication tool, it is fine. So that is the first thing. And people would, of course, we started talking about the communication. That is, so if there is a barrier in communication because of the language, as I said, the various barriers. One is the language barrier we study communication in universities and other places. So this language barrier of communication has to be overcome through our attitudes.
All right.
There is no way in which everybody would come at the same level at the same time. You know that famous Mirza Ghalib's "Meri raftar se bhage hai bayagam" would say. It goes further away and sort of, how would you reach at? I mean, it's just like that. So there has to be a mechanism in which it has to be the value of the language as communication tool only. The other things have to go away.
Yeah.
There are a few basic things one talks about. I can tell you, I can draw an analogy. The analogy is such that, for example, in the United Kingdom, I think even I'm not 100% sure, but I understand if the chief constable is the rank for the head of the London police. The reason is that constable is supposed to be the rank from where one starts. So they are saying the chief constable. Similarly, a head teacher. So they are, rather than juxtaposing them, they are just bringing them together. In this way, the utility of that, all the jobs is there, and similarly the chief is also known, you can use the word head teacher. So teacher and the head teacher. So there is no problem. I mean, even if somebody says, even the teachers would say, I am a university professor and he is a master. No problem. Let's call the headmaster, the head teacher. Similarly in English, nobody has to worry about the accent. We have to take it as a tool of communication. And this is the time our youth bulge under 30, there's a big percentage of that. Let's put in some programs, let's get all of them, total immersion, and then build up. Yes, later on if somebody comes up with a very good pronunciation, that would be a literary thing. That would be a literary thing, one can just enjoy that. So there has to be a natural and a government level and a state level sort of intrusion into that, whereby all this language barriers, the pronunciation barriers and all these things have to go away, and the natural utility of this English language as a communication tool has to pervade.
Yeah, true. So, how about you? You are a teacher, you teach English. Where do you teach that, and how was your experience of teaching English?
Yes, I have taught English. Basically, I taught English in the schools which, as we call which were working on the British system, like the O levels and the IGCSEs and all. And then, of course, I remember studying a very important topic. One of the optional papers when I was doing my masters was direct method and indirect method. I don't know where is all that. I mean, all those things have been being taught for years and ages in Pakistan. How do we always start reinventing the wheel once again? A single national curriculum and other things. I mean, from 1947, things are going on. There's no need. But anyways, that maybe we can touch upon some other time. I'm a bit touchy about that because, of course, I believe that rather than delving into the curriculum changes, there are other things which have to be done. But touching upon that thing, I believe that the way in which for example, just to know the definition of the various verbs, this is such clause, this is that clause, identify which tense it is, that would be rather a longish way. The total immersion term I keep using, and that also I learned from one of my friends, who was very senior, who went to Canada way back, and then he was a very senior civil servant, worked in PI as well. And that's from him. So he said that we were sent to Canada, and we were put in an environment where we could only speak in French. And that was, Quebec and that part of Canada. And he said, I wrote back to my mother and I said, Mommy, I can't eat sometimes because I can't tell them that I need food. Beta, now you are there, either you complete it, otherwise you. So that is total immersion. And I think the direct method, which perhaps is something which I know you're working on, and your plan of rolling it out. I believe that is the best way.
All right.
Rather than to burdening somebody, and I think that is what is being rolled out in your plans as well, in which there would be quick learning. I believe it could be the other way around. Later on, one can always go back and one can see if I am using this term, okay, this is that term. Rather than learn it from the beginning, start speaking. Jump into the pond, or rather you said the ocean.
All right. So just as you said, like there are some quick ways, and there is another way who say like it's a lifelong process of learning something. What do you think? What is the exact duration, time period that a person needs to learn a new language?
Oh my goodness me, I mean, you really touched upon a very nice topic. This is when one really knows what is around him, one understands the causes of the things and one understands what is actually happening, then time is so short. I believe some people would say, time nahi guzar raha hai, we need some pastimes as well. I believe, as you rightly said, lifelong learning, yes, I mean that cradle to grave thing is very much true. That is true. However, but that's basically generally about knowledge and of course how you then do the analysis and synthesis and you go on and on. But particularly about language learning, again I would say that is something in which, for example, first of all one learns the language, then one learns to speak it fluently, then speak it with music, and then communicate in what are other things. I mean, you do the summary and the précis and all those things. They are all about making it more and more beautiful sort of thing, perfecting it. And so yes, it is quite lifelong. One can always go back. Look at the tickers which are under the CNN. I think a lot of effort goes into that. You learn the language, then yes, of course, first point is to learn it, then you learn those punctuation marks, the semicolons and the colons and the dashes where they have to be used. Exactly. One can go on learning, maybe not lifelong as far as language is concerned, because after a certain time the language would be learned and then the applications of would follow. But lifelong learning, yes, very much agreed. It has to go on.
All right, great.